18th, 2020. It is 6 p.m. We'll begin with public comment session. Just for clarification, I'll be keeping the time up here on my phone. You get 4 minutes. I'll flip this over when you got 1 minute remaining, and time's up when you've reached the 4-minute remark. Ms. Gwen McPhail.
My name is Gwen McPhail. This is Mr. Frankie Pearson. I'm here tonight as chairman of the Oconee County Planning Commission. But I'll confess that I came up a couple of weeks ago to do this personally, and cheerfully turned around in the parking lot right behind Mr. Barnett because we didn't know the meeting was canceled. Y'all decided to only have one in July. But anyway, we wanted this to go on public record. To whom it may concern, from the Oconee County Planning Commission, the Oconee County Planning Commission would like to recognize Mr. Wayne McCall's commitment and service to the citizens of Oconee County as a member of County Council for the past 12 years. For many years, Mr. McCall has provided invaluable services to Duke Power, now Duke Energy, as well as other industries and businesses in the county through his industrial shop. But for 3 terms in office, he has been a tireless supporter of the firefighters and law enforcement across the entire county. He worked countless hours on the repairs and restoration of the Walhalla City Pool to provide activities for the youth of Walhalla. He assured that dependable communications were provided to assist with the health needs of some of Walhalla's senior citizens, and has donated his council salary for many years to help seniors keep current on their taxes on their homes. So we officially would like to say thank you to Mr. McCall for his time and efforts on behalf of the citizens of Oconee. Respectfully, the members of the Oconee County Planning Commission, and that's a signed letter.
Travis Nix.
Travis Nix. I'm manager of Towel Towing and Crane Service here in Walhalla. I've been in service over 40-something years. As a lot of y'all know, there is a ordinance trying to come through the Planning Commission on salvage and garages and stuff, vehicles and stuff. A lot of y'all don't know, every car we take in, we have to hold for 120 days. That's going through the magistrate, state. We have to have a certified certificate from the state of the owner, send them a letter, and it's usually right around 120 days before we get to the last date in the magistrate system. And then the car may not be worth $100. We've got about $300 in it. Campers, it's even worse. Boats is even worse than that. We tow anything from automobiles to boats, campers, tractor trailers, and even a boat, airplane. He knows that. We got it out of Joe Cassidy. I don't even want to know what that would cost. But what we need to do is, there's 3 facilities in Oconee County. There's 4 if you count Henry's Salvage out here, or Automotive Salvage. It costs, they are local. We can get to them fairly easy. We still make $80 to $100 out of a car, where it was $300 to $500 out of a vehicle when it was $15 $100. It's down to between $200 and $250 $100 now. We're losing money on every car that we bring in. If we keep on pushing with this vehicle law, we have already collected a few out of the roadway for the Sheriff's Department and the Highway Patrol. The people live just a few houses down from where it's at, and it's found in the roadway by somebody coming down the road. They call in law enforcement. We tow it in, it's 120 days, and we've done got our money tied into it, and we're still losing money. If we keep on, there's going to be more of that. And then you're going to get into tow companies that's going to start refusing to go out and pick up abandoned cars from people. And there's people out here that don't have the funding to pay for it. And like I said, with the time, the money, the storage, you're looking about somewhere between $275 to $300 per car, and you're getting maybe $80, $90 out of it. And they're not gonna be able to pay a tow company to come get it and dispose of it themselves because they're on fixed income. You take $100, $125 tow according to where it's at here in Oconee County, and according to what it is, it could be, there's buses around people use for storage. There's trailers around that people use for storage. You start getting into some of that, it's been sitting there 10 years, you've got to get a tire man out there to replace the tires. You've got to get the brakes loose. If the emergency brakes have been on for 10 years, you got to take the wheel. Then you got to break the shoes loose from the drums. And it's just going to keep on, and you're going to get where there's no tow companies out here that's willing to go out and pick up abandoned vehicles. Because we're already losing money now. Doing all that, it's gonna cost us even more. And like I said, we need to get together at a meeting or something like that. We've got a meeting set up with Adam. We're gonna set up with him, and I'll get the tow companies and facilities together, and then let him bring it back to the planning commission. But I figured y'all needed to be aware of what was going on. And thank you.
Ms. Farmer.
Thank you. My name is Erin Farmer, and I live here in Seneca. This is my second council meeting ever, so I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk with you guys. I'm here in support for the Commission for African American Affairs for Oconee County. What I wanted to bring up to you guys today is, we brought this to your attention last month, but we don't have anything on the agenda today referencing this. I did see the new commission that's being proposed, so I'm very excited to see that as well, but I really want to make sure that these are the things that stay a top priority for us. Our group in particular has been featured on News Channel 7. We've had several articles come out, lots of participation, so I really feel like the county and members need to seize this chance, to make sure that our voices are heard. And at that point, we need to lead by example. We'll be the first county in the state to do something like this. So I think it would be great for Oconee County, just, for, the tout of it, but also for the things that we can bring for our community, bring our community together, make sure everyone is heard. So my goal is just to bring your attention back to that, just to make sure that we stay on top of that and that we hear something about it. So thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? Do have an email that was sent in from Gail Taft of Seneca. I oppose the letter of support for qualified immunity. Our government should be for the people, by the people. We should all be held accountable to the same rules. Any other written comments can be sent to our clerk of council. Any other public comment at this time? Council member comments?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
After Ms. McPhail and Mr. Pearson, I am speechless. Thank y'all so very much. I had no idea this was coming. Walked right into it. The other thing is, I talked to Mr. Root about this. I've been getting calls from, I'm going to try to handle this very graciously after Ms. McPhail and Mr. Pearson, they put me in such a good mood. Can't get mad now. Been getting calls from people. You see what's going on in the video? And I said, well, no, I'm up here and everybody, the camera looking at me. They're complaining that we're not being transparent, with good reason. They say that certain members of council, when we're having a when we have it open for the, motion and a second open for discussion, and they said, look at the video. It says certain members of council and in the audience, everybody's doing this. I don't have one of them things, so I can't do that. And it casts a shadow of untransparency, what's going on here. And I think, a lot of plants I go into, they tell you upon entering, you got a cell phone. We go into a conference. They leave the cell phone with the receptionist, if you got one. The Army now and the various services, if you go on, you've got to be put in an ammunition box. The first sergeant and the master chief has got the cell phones now because it's become such a distraction and you don't know what's going on. I just wanted to bring this up. I think as a council, and this goes for members of council, the audience, everybody. If you got to do this, you need to go outside. If we're up here, we work for the people. You're the bosses, not us. You deserve our undivided attention. Therefore, the cell phones ought to be left for Ms. Smith over there. If there's an emergency comes in, she can say, hey, you got a problem, and give you the phone. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I'd like to second Mr. McCall on this because of the fact that some people are being told how to vote by being texted. I think it ought to have a little plastic bag or basket over there and put those things in it, because I was talking to you one time, Mr. Davis, and I was thinking I had done such a good job influencing Mrs. Kemick about voting, because I thought I had changed her mind. And you told me at that time, you said, I think Jerry Edwards texted her and told her she should vote that way. So I think that they should be put somewhere else too.
Technology can be used in a lot of different ways. I have this that has my agenda on it with the backup material. I have my phone that has my notes in it that's used like a computer, and I have it up right here. I keep the time on it, and I didn't make that statement. And this is like the second meeting that you're continuing to slander another council member. So,
Well,
I mean,
I can
is
tell
that-
you the vote that you didn't make that statement. It was when we was voting for the grading out at the Commerce place where the Tri-County Tech is now.
well,
The
unless you,
vote was 4-1. Mr. McCall's the only one that voted no.
what did you vote?
I voted yes.
Okay, what did I vote?
You voted yes.
What's the problem with that?
I don't have a problem
I
with
don't
it.
have people texting me telling me what to
I
vote.
didn't say they text you. You
This is
told me
ridiculous.
that Mrs. Kamick got a text from Jerry Edwards to vote yes.
I did not state that.
When I told you that I done such a good job of impressing her that we needed to do that, and you said it could have been Jerry texting her, telling her how to vote.
That's not what I said. You can continue to slander every meeting, Mr. Hart. If that's what you feel like is your elected capacity. Any other council member comments?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make a statement. I haven't prepared anything, but I have gotten a lot of emails regarding storage buildings that are set to be built on Highway 130. It's not on our agenda, so I'll talk about it now. From what I understand, there's some work will progress at this property. Is in a control-free area, and Oconee County Council has no control over that at this time to stop it or otherwise. So I just wanted to let those know that y'all can continue to email me I told Mr. Root I need to come up with a canned response because I've got about 50 emails to respond to since this weekend. But I understand there's been a lot of concerns about it, but being that it is this person's property and it is in a control-free area, they can do with it as they wish, provided that it's within the setbacks established in the control-free zone. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, you said something that's another thing of slander. That brings to the point that Mr. Kane thought I slandered him when I said that I thought I was being bribed. I had another attorney to look at that, and he laughed all the way through it, and he said, you didn't do anything to slander. And now evidently he's told you because you're accusing me of slander.
You're making an invalid statement to affect someone's character. Anyway, anything else?
One more thing.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Root, Hidden Valley Midnight Chocolate, 1 quart.
I'm sorry, what?
Hidden Valley Midnight Chocolate, 1 quart.
Moment of silence. I would like for us to remember the passing of council member Reg Dexter, passed away last week or 2 weeks.
Sunday evening, I
Sunday
believe so,
evening.
yes, sir.
Thank him for his service and remember his family during this. Thank you. Ruth.
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, Father, thank you first that you've given us life. You allow us to breathe and move about and interact with one another, and we are grateful. And to the extent we're not truly grateful, create in us hearts that are appreciative for our freedoms, for our neighbors, and for the love that you've given us. I pray for peace, peace in this country, peace in our hearts, that we would be peacemakers, peace in this county, throughout this nation. We need that. Obviously, a lot of change and a lot of movement is going on, and a lot of it, I think, will probably coalesce around the election, the national and state elections, local elections coming up in November. So I just pray that your will would be done, that there would be truth in the election process, that you would guide those folks who are involved so that people's actual votes and their will, as they express that at the ballots, will be done. I think it's a wonderful system that we have in this country. I'm very appreciative for it. And I just pray that you would help it to be effected in the right way. Love you. Thank you for this opportunity to gather together tonight in this meeting. And I pray that this would be your meeting. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Brock, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir, thank you. Pledge of allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes for July 21st, 2020. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kane, second by Mr. Elliott. Any changes, amendments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Brock?
Yes, sir, I just have 2 items as a matter of housekeeping on the agenda this evening. Thank you, Mr. Hart, for a tip on a possible lead for a piece of equipment that we may be interested in for the solid waste department. So one of the amendments would be to remove the refurbishment of the CAT 973C track loader for solid waste, which is the first item under your action items. Actually, it can be one amendment, Mr. Root, to remove 2 items at one time?
Yes,
So I
ma'am.
won't need a second amendment, just one amendment. The second item to be removed, though, is the economic development matter under the executive session heading, which is Project 3 Points.
So moved.
Second.
Sir?
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Drew?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have one item in relation to the sign ordinance. That's 2020-09. We've had, of course, a number of amendments last reading during second reading, and this is something that we've had good community participation in. And we need a few actual other amendments, or at least I'm proposing those in discussions with council and from input from the citizenry. We'll put up, when we get to that ordinance, just in written form what those amendments are, but in brief, it'll be to define temporary billboards and temporary signs, and then also to exclude those clearly from the ordinance. It'll be to remove a provision within the ordinance that states that signs and billboards that are exempt from this article for permitting will still be governed where appropriate. Just think that creates some ambiguity, so we move to delete that. And the final one would be to add language to billboards stating that if the billboard content is simply changed, or the billboard's repaired, or there's a replacement, provided there's no square footage increase, then that billboard work would be exempt from permitting under the article. So that would mirror the language that's in the sign ordinance. Just giving you notice of that, so we'll flash that on the screen when we get to that ordinance. All of that makes the ordinance less strict in reading, so that's why we wanted to do it, even though it's third reading.
Mr. Lyle, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I appreciate this opportunity to address you today. I'm here, let me give you a little background in case you do not know who I am. Some of the people here might not know who I am. I am Luther Lyle. I am a U.S. Army veteran, and I am a retired school teacher. I'm currently the chairman and director of the Museum of Tourism of South Carolina, the only Native American museum in the state of South Carolina, right here in Walhalla, and I would invite you to visit if you have an opportunity. We have a proposal to create a Oconee County, South Carolina Commission on Native American Affairs.
Okay, it's not gonna work, just tell me how. Before you, it wasn't working.
Basically, Native Americans have lived in what is now Oconee County for over 10,000 years. Their descendants continue to reside in Oconee County today. And I'd just like to see if anyone here has Native American heritage in their family. Raise your hand. Okay, that's usually the way it is. When we have field trips, school trips, the museum, we always have kids who have Native American heritage. And that's not unusual for South Carolina, because South Carolina is one of the few states that did not send their Native Americans to Oklahoma back in the day. So all the Native American groups that were here in South Carolina are still here. They never left. And so we still have a lot of people who descend from those. There were at one time over 27 Cherokee villages throughout Oconee County. Many geographic place names in Oconee County were derived from historic Cherokee sites, such as Kiwi, Toxaway, Chattooga, Chauga, Tugelo, Seneca, which is really Seneca, Tomasi, Choi, Issaquena, Jocassee, Tokena, and I could go on, but I only have 10 minutes here. So, Oconee County was named for the Cherokee village of Oconee. The Oconee County seal and flag were designed in collaboration with Native Americans. Native American citizens of Oconee County have made and continue to make many positive contributions to the history and culture of Oconee County. So therefore, we respectfully request that there be a commission to honor this. Okay. This is, I'm going to give you a few examples of what the Native Americans here in Oconee County have done. One, they put in a monument at the Oconee County Courthouse. This is the Spirit of Oconee Monument. And the plaque on that, this is the plaque. And so they have dedicated this to the heritage of all Oconee County citizens, past, present, and future. Now, they did this with their own money, through fundraising. We had some grant writers and all, but all the labor and everything was done by local Native Americans. We worked in collaboration with Oconee County to produce a map that shows the locations of 27 villages here. And also that red line across there is the last Cherokee boundary in South Carolina. And at that point, the state of South Carolina actually purchased land from Oconee Mountain to Chattooga River, purchased the land from the Cherokee Nation, but the Cherokees who lived there could still stay there on their own farms, which was a beautiful thing to happen. This is what a typical Cherokee village would have looked like back in the 1700s. This, in fact, would be pretty much what Kiwi Town would have looked like on the river. I won't go into all the detail about the different styles of houses and all, but if you come up to the museum, I can give you a rundown on that. We put in a historic marker to honor the fact that Oconee County was named for this little Cherokee village. If you've ever been to Oconee Station Historic Site, the village is actually on that site now. So there's a lot of history there. We have conducted several archaeological digs at the site of Oconee Town. Most of the volunteers there were of Cherokee descent. We found a lot of interesting things there, a lot of artifacts. And we found out that that site goes back 10,000 years. It was originally a seasonal campsite, but later on it became a village. This is a map that shows where Oconee Town is in relation to Oconee Historic Site. So the green there is the park, and the area where the pink is the town site. So we raised money, local Native Americans raised money to purchase the town site and give it to the state park system. This is part of the celebration that we had up at Oconee State Park. We actually had a wampum belt made by the Cherokee Nation for this particular ceremony. So these gentlemen standing there are making a contract, you might say, to turn the site over to the park system. And the lower picture is school children, third graders from Walhalla Elementary, and they're there because that particular class raised more money than any other class in the whole school district. This is when the official Oconee County seal was dedicated. This was in 2003, and so the Cherokees actually helped with the design of it, and some of the Eastern band members came down for that particular ceremony. The flag that we don't have one in here, but it flies at different Oconee offices around, like the courthouse and library and places like that.
There is one on our flagpole out front right there.
Pardon me?
There is one on our
And
flagpole out front.
outside our county offices here. Okay, this is where the Museum of the Cherokee is. We started out with a little building, a little one-story building on Short Street. It had been abandoned and the roof had fallen in and everything, but we got it from the school district and then created a museum out of it. And then later on, a few years after that, the county abandoned the building over on the right-hand side. So we connected the two, and so that's our Cherokee Museum now. So we have a wonderful gallery in there. All right, this is a dedication of the gallery. We dedicated it and named it for Jerry Wolf, who was instrumental in helping with the design of the flag and the seal. And so that's his family standing on the steps there, and me. I'm part of their family now. And the chief's daughter is the one over on the left, and the young lady over on the right-hand side is representing the Cherokee Nation. So that was a ribbon cutting. We have done a lot of things for the county and the state and the city of Walhalla. This is a wall on Church Street, and you might have passed by that on the way here today. It's kind of in front of the Ag Building, and that wall had been damaged back in 1965, and it had been like that since 1965. And so we decided it'd be a good idea for us to repair it, you know, as a kind of a neighborly gesture. So that's how it is now. So that's another thing that the Museum of Churches has done. We have also republished some books for the county library system. They had a book on Andre Michaud's journal, and this was printed back in the 70s, I think, and it ran out of copies. So we reprinted this, and so they have them at the library now, and we also sell them. I'm not trying to make a sales pitch here, but we also have them at the museum.
You need
We
to make
also
sure you
have
speak in the
copyright-
microphone, okay?
Pardon me?
Speak in the microphone.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
We just need to make sure it's recorded well.
Okay. We also have copyright privileges to another book about Cherokee villages in Oconee County. And all these are available in the county library. And also we have books that we have donated to the school system for elementary students. They have one set of books. Let me hold up an example of that. You have a loose book?
Yeah. Which one? This was,
Yeah. First South Carolinians, we made sure that every elementary school had at least one of those in the library so the kids could get an accurate idea about Native Americans in South Carolina. Now, all this leads up to what we would like to do in partnership with the county. We have done all these things on our own, but we would like to work with the county to bring more tourists and tourist dollars in by having events such as powwows to celebrate our county's Native American heritage. So that's one thing we can do. And then there are other activities we can be involved in too, but we would like to be considered in working with you all. Is my time up?
You got the floor.
Okay. I appreciate your time, and we'll be back in touch.
thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Lee.
Proclamation 2020-05. Mr. Jones?
A proclamation recognizing the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment and the efforts of the women's suffrage movement to guarantee the right for all women to vote. Whereas August 26, 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. And whereas the 19th Amendment states the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex, guaranteeing and protecting the constitutional right of women to vote. And whereas the women's suffrage movement from the first Women's Rights Convention to the enfranchisement lasted 72 years, during which time women from all walks of life, political views, and demographic backgrounds demanded the right to voice their opinions at the polls. And whereas, in a letter published in the May 12, 1920 edition of the Kiwi Courier, Mrs. W.L. Donovan, press chair of the South Carolina Equal Suffrage League, states, "I see by the state of Tuesday that your county convention went on record favoring women's suffrage in the primaries. I believe yours to be the only one doing so. We will see to it that when the suffrage history of South Carolina is written, this fact shall be recorded. Like the little streams of your mountains, let us hope that this beginning will become a mighty torrent, sweeping all opposition before it. We so much hope that our own state would have enfranchised us, but since that is one of the things that cannot now be, it is like a balm to a wound to read what Oconee has done. And whereas the Voting Rights Act passed in 1965 by Congress aimed to further overcome legal barriers at the state and local levels, granting women of all races the ability to cast their vote. And whereas the state of South Carolina shows its support for women's suffrage by officially ratifying the 19th Amendment on July the 1st, 1969. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby recognize the historical and political significance of the ratification of the 19th Amendment and the hard work of generations of women to gain enfranchisement in Oconee County and the United States.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Proclamation 2020-06, Mr. Kane.
Proclaiming the week of August 9th through August 15th as Rosa Clark Medical Center Awareness Week in Oconee County in coordination with National Health Center Awareness Week, whereas National Health Center Week is an annual celebration with the goal of raising awareness about the mission and accomplishments of America's health centers, and whereas community health centers serve as a beacon of strength, service, and care in their communities by offering support in moments of pain and loss, and whereas all individuals should have access to affordable, quality health care regardless of their ability to pay. However, affordability and accessibility of health services remain critical issues for the underinsured and uninsured in the United States. And whereas Rosa Clark Medical Center has provided quality health care in Oconee County since 1982 and became a federally qualified health center in 2017. And whereas Rosa Clark Medical Center provides a range of medical, dental, pharmaceutical, and behavioral health services to economically disadvantaged individuals who are predominantly underinsured or uninsured. And whereas Rosa Clark Medical Center is dedicated to educating the public, press, state agencies, local industries, and organizations about health centers and the important services they provide to America's underinsured and uninsured. And whereas Rosa Clark Medical Center continues its mission to enhance lives and preserve health by enabling access to a comprehensive, fully integrated network of the highest quality and most affordable care delivered with kindness, integrity, and respect, regardless of the patient's ability to pay. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby recognize and proclaim the week August 9th through August 15th as Rosa Clark Medical Center Awareness Week in Oconee County in coordination with National Health Center Week.
Have a motion to approve.
So
moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Rosa Clark.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Ms. Vicki Thompson, the Executive Director for the Rosa Clark Health Clinic in Oconee County, Seneca, South Carolina, was unable to join us this evening, but did want to express her sincere gratitude for your appreciation and your continued support of the free health clinic here in Oconee County.
I did jump over, Ms. Jennifer Moss was here to receive the proclamation for women's rights. Sorry about that, Jennifer. I was sitting there going, what are we doing?
It's okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Root, will you discuss, before we even do the public hearings, if we'll go ahead and bring forward on the sign control, So we can go ahead and have those pulled forward and, so we can review those real quick. And then we'll go into public hearing for any questions on the said proposed amendments. Does that work for you?
Absolutely. Katie, could you pop those up?
These are proposed amendments to be voted on. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of it.
So last time I wasn't here, I was still out on the sick leave. And I know there are a number of amendments made, I think 6 in total that Mr. Kane had to go through, and it was a difficult process and probably more difficult for the citizens to follow. These have been discussed in advance as being potential changes to the sign ordinance that would make it less restrictive, more clear. Under number 1, it just defines temporary billboard, temporary sign. Number 2, it then later on in the ordinance, in the appropriate place, excludes those from operation of the ordinance, so the ordinance wouldn't govern temporary signs or billboards. Number 3, there's language in the ordinance as it passed on second reading. As stated there, billboards and signs exempt from permitting remain governed by this article where appropriate. On further consideration, debate to clean this up, that where appropriate just created some ambiguity, we thought, and the ordinance stands well without it. So that would be to delete that language in those 2 sections. And then finally, really the third amendment, taken independently, is to add a new 32-527, noting that billboards that are just having work done to them, that is, the content's being changed or being repaired or replaced, so long as the square footage of the billboard is not being increased, they're going to be exempt from permitting under the article. That same language, this language mirrors what was in place for sign ordinances. It was essentially implied with the language for billboards, but we thought it would be better to make it clear. So that would be the other amendment. And when y'all get to it, after you make, of course, public comment, this isn't part of the ordinance yet. But when y'all get to it, you make the motion, and then second, that would bring the current ordinance to the floor, and then someone would make a motion. You could adopt all 3 of these at once. You can just make a motion to amend, as stated on the document entitled 2020-09 potential amendments for 8/18/2020, being today's date. You can take it as one, and if it moves smoothly, then go with that. If you don't want to break it up after there's some debate on one or another, you can do it that way too.
We can have discussion on that as we move forward then.
Yes, sir.
So at this time, we'll open up public hearing for ordinance 2020-09, ordinance amending the sign control ordinance. We do have a few people signed up. Mr. Joey Lemons, if y'all like to come together, that's fine too.
My name is Joey Lemons. I'm with Fruitland Outdoor Advertising. Appreciate your opportunity to speak before the council tonight. I spoke with several of you today about the ordinance, and the concern I had was basically, my company has only four billboard structures in the county. And we cover about 8 or 10 counties across the upstate. Of course, we deal with, every county's got different ordinances. But the one concern I had was as technology changes, the need changes sometimes. And so if we have these four billboard structures, I think maybe number 4 might address this on your amendments. Whereas if we have a structure that we want to put an LED sign on, is that permissible? And from the feedback I've gotten so far is that would be permissible. I mean, that would be allowed, It would be allowed. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think this makes it more clear. And when I look at it, actually, it notes that it's the same with the sign, that the square footage wouldn't be changed when y'all, and that's good, that's fine language, because that goes to the notion that you're not gonna put a new billboard up, but you may want to think about as long as the square footage isn't increased, so.
Okay. That's the way I understood it, was as long as the square footage was not increased, we could make those updates. I kind of compare this to, say, a grocery store. 50 years ago, a grocery store was 30,000 square feet, maybe 20,000 square feet. Now you've got these mega stores that offer everything. And every industry's changing, and as it changes, we like the opportunity to upgrade our structures also. And I appreciate y'all allowing that. And one thing in the industry that's occurring is, as technology changes, we're finding that we need less locations. So as far as spreading the locations out, that's not really an issue. I mean, I think right now you got 1,300 linear feet. Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, with this ordinance, there will be no new structures for a period of time. Is that correct? In other words, even if you've got 1,300 foot of linear foot, if you found a location out there, you couldn't go build on it because you've got a moratorium in it. Is this a moratorium or is this actually an ordinance change?
Limit of size, 33 square feet on
Okay, so you could,
off premise.
so if somebody had a farming operation or something, or let's say had selling peaches or strawberries or whatever, and they wanted to put up a 33 square foot sign, or a 32 square foot, say a 4x8 piece of plywood, they would have an opportunity to put that up as long as it didn't go over 33 square foot, right? My question was another thing is, I mean, I have no problem with, my family's in a farming business in Cherokee County. And, so, you know, I see a need for farmers especially on, you know, 2 or 3 months out of the season when they're selling strawberries or whatever they're selling. And a lot of counties do provide that in their ordinances, but where I would suggest y'all restrict it would be like if you got somebody like, Ryan Homes or some developer who wants to go put a sign up saying, our new development's down here 3 miles to the right, you know. Personally, I think they ought to have to buy billboard advertising, because that's the service we provide. And, that type of industry wouldn't take advantage of this 33 square foot rule. But anyway, that's just a recommendation to you. And, but I, you know, primarily tonight, I just want to, you know, put it on record or ask you in person, if we have 4 billboard signs, can we upgrade those as long as we don't make the square footage larger? And I think from what I've heard from everyone is that will be allowed. I appreciate it.
Trey, just state your name for the record.
Yep, my name is Trey Lemons. I'm also a representative of Fruitland Outdoor, and I appreciate y'all allowing us to come to speak. I've got some material here, if you don't mind me passing out to some of the council members. These are just the results of some studies. I just wanted to I watched the last meeting on YouTube. I think you had posted online, which is great. And I saw some lack of information on billboards. And, yeah, just one of each one. Thank you. And these are results from studies, and I've actually got 7 or 8 of them. I just pulled the results off of 2 of them, talking about the safety issue with billboards, and just wanted to address that. Billboards have been found not to be dangerous or cause any other distraction to the driver, and most studies actually improve driver awareness. The reason for this is because the driver is looking laterally, so in a distance, when they see a large billboard, they can clearly see. Their eyes are more direct toward the road. Whereas if they're looking down at their cell phone, it takes a whole second just to look up and down. So these studies, you'll read that they've actually, billboards can actually improve driver awareness. Now, there is some stipulation that is sizing. So if a board is too small, then the driver is now straining to see what the sign says, thus actually causing an accident. So larger billboards are better for driving awareness, and because the driver can clearly see it from a distance. And you'll also see they showed the actual view time of the billboards, where the driver, how long they actually look at each sign, and then the safety of how long a driver should look at it, and you'll see that it's well under the safety regulation of looking at a billboard sign. So I just wanted to address the council to that and kind of give y'all some information on that. I didn't want y'all to be misinformed on the safety of billboards. They are a legitimate business, and it's how we make money, but they are not unsafe to the driver. So, thank you.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
do have a written comment coming forth. This is from Mr. Tony Adams. I'd like for my comments to be read into record during public hearing for ordinance 2020-09, an ordinance amending the sign control ordinance for Oconee, South Carolina. I am opposed to this ordinance, specifically the moratorium on billboards, for the following reasons. First, the proposed ordinance is a clear example of government overreach and overregulation. The fact is, supported by the fact that Oconee Planning Commission refused to endorse this ordinance simply because it was the Planning Commission's position that county's current ordinances and regulations for sign control are adequate. Hence, Mr. Kane's proposed ordinance is clearly overreach and overregulation. We have more government and regulation than we need now. Let's not add to this burden, especially with something unnecessary as ordinance 2020-09. Second, this proposed ordinance is a clear infringement on private property rights and property owners' ability to earn income from their property. Specifically, if an individual owns property and a media company should want to place a billboard on this property, which would be allowed under the county's current sign control ordinance. And this request is not simply because of a billboard moratorium included in Mr. Kane's proposed ordinance. This is a clear infringement on private property rights and hinders the property owner from deriving income from their property. Would this billboard moratorium pass legal scrutiny? Third, the issue of signs being safety hazards has been brought up. In my almost 70 years on this old earth, I have never had a safety issue with a properly constructed sized placed billboard. On the other hand, I have had safety issues with smaller signs installed closer to traffic flow that may impede the view of oncoming traffic, etc. Mr. Kane has stated that his only motive for proposing this ordinance was to ensure the aesthetic beauty of Oconee County. And I certainly agree that we need to protect the natural beauty of Oconee. But the overreach and overregulation in this proposed ordinance, coupled with the dilution of private property rights, greatly outweighs the need for this unnecessary ordinance. Respectfully, Tony Adams. We do have Mr. Frankie Pearson.
I'm up here and speaking for myself, no one else, no commissioners, no parties, not even the silent majority. I'm speaking for me.
State your name for the records, please.
My name is Frankie Pearson. I'm a citizen of Oconee County. Prior meetings I've heard people come up and put signs on my property. I got this on Highway 11. This is a state law from Miss Joyce Gardner. It states that is false. You cannot do that on Highway 11 at all. No signs. Not on private property, not on anything. You can have a business sign if you have a business there. If any other signs are put up, they're considered off-premise, which is technically considered a billboard, and it will be removed. And if the state has to remove it, you will pay the state to remove it. You get a nasty little letter, the lady was telling me. I just did my research from the last meeting, and this ordinance we're about to, hopefully that you're fixing to pass, is no different than the one they have on Highway 11. It says no billboards, other than the two that's already there that were approved by the state. No others will be approved, according to Ms. Gardner. Neither will there be any more approved on 85, because they're just not the business or nothing on 85 in Oconee County. But I just wanted people to be aware that they can't go up and stick signs up on Highway 11 per state law. This is Title 57 of Highway Bridges and Ferries, Chapter 25, Outdoor Advertising. This is Article 1. And there's rules, and you need to know what you're speaking about before you tell people they can do things when they can't do them. Thank you.
Frankie, I want to ask you one question.
Got it.
Now, the planning commission, y'all put this whole sign thing to bed a long time ago, right?
Yeah, we didn't say we were gonna handle it. I'm speaking in the planning commission, but we didn't say we wasn't gonna do it. We didn't say we was gonna. We just said, let council deal with it. And, I mean, we didn't, with the last comment I heard, it said we refused to do it. We didn't refuse. We just decided we've already handled it one time. We made an ordinance, and as far as signs goes, and we were not gonna bring up the billboards again, because it had been brought up 3 different times with 2 different planning commissions.
So y'all figure,
Let the council handle it.
yeah, well, you figure, well, what y'all did was well enough, good enough to go.
Originally at that time, yes.
All right, thank you, Frankie.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Barnett?
I'm Jerry Barnett, and I'll just let y'all guess where I stand on this government overreach, intrusion into our personal private lives, the denial of a private property owner having a source of income. Now, you just heard from the pros here. I won't dare tread in their territory. But I've been listening to this for many years. Wayne, you've been listening to it ever since you took that seat, right? Galloping billboards is what I refer to. Special interest, we know who you are. We know where you come from. This has nothing to do with the majority of the people in Oconee County. And to think that we're wasting time on this when you have, in these uncertain and trying times, that we waste time on this nonsense. When we've got people that are homeless, hungry, and we waste time on this. And it is a shame and disgrace that y'all are gonna do this, I'm sure, by royal decree. We know which three's gonna vote one way, and the other 2, I'm sure, will do the right thing. Thank you.
Public comment? Okay, I move to close the public comment on ordinance 2009. And we'll move to 3rd reading on ordinance 2020-09. Let me go down my phone and pull, I'll read it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You're gonna do the public hearing on 2020-10 first?
Oh, yeah, I better do that. Sorry. Too many phones. I was actually trying to put my phone down like I was told. We do have public hearing. We didn't have anybody sign up for that one, so I'm sorry. We do have public hearing opening up on the litter ordinance. Do I have anybody that's speaking on public hearing on the litter ordinance? Move to close public hearing on the litter ordinance, sorry. We didn't have anybody sign up, I apologize for missing that. 3rd reading on ordinance 2020 on the sign control. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. We do have some amendments, if those can be brought back up for discussion. I would like to make a motion to add the amendments as stated, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the biggest one that I wanted to make sure that we're clear on is existing billboards can rebuild, whether it's storm or whether it is time for a change or change poles out. Existing billboards can change the sign to an LED sign, as long as it is the same size. I know the stackable, the way the state states, as was in our conversation today, allows you not to stack a LED sign to go to a single one, but if you have that stackable, whatever your square footage is per allowed by that would count in that. I just want to make that clear for those that are wanting to make changes that may see a new structure go up around an existing structure, or as that one comes down, that is permitted, and to make sure that those are taken care of. Some concerns that I had that I wanted to talk a little bit about, that there's not a need for amendment, but is lighting on those. Is in the current ordinance, it states that the lighting is supposed to shine down and not up. The majority of billboards I went down shine up. And if you read that, it's in E, on the, section where it talks about the lighting should shine down, and that's for light pollution. It's 7, illumination, E. Sorry, that was the A. Signs shall be top lighted with a light source facing downward. It's my personal opinion that they do this for light pollution. I don't think it's a big deal because the idea is to have the light on the sign itself.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, that reference in illumination just applies to signs and not billboards. And I remember Mr. Chapman may be able to speak to this better than I could. When we put that in there, I asked him about that, and he had a good reason. I can't remember what it was at this point in time. But it's not for billboards, it's for signs. I don't mean to put you on the spot, I just can't remember what you said.
Gentlemen. It was for light pollution. That's what it was. It was for, so many people think of, Oconee County for natural beauty, things of that nature, and light pollution is certainly something that impacts. So that's what it was for light pollution.
Some of this was already in there, and then the no light source shall be located as seen from residential property. Can you give me an example? Because to me, I think that can just go way out. I would like to see that, removed strictly on that. What is that talking about just on the signs? Because if I'm sitting in my house and I look out and see a light through the trees and it happens to be a sign based on this, I can complain on it.
Sure. So the light source, so versus the shine versus the source, I suppose. You can see light from the sun. So light can be visible from anywhere. I think the intent of it is that since so much of this county is control-free district, you can put a house next to anything else you want to. Is there some level of protection for the residents there? So that's the thing. So it says the no light source. That's the bulb to me.
Okay.
But we could certainly.
Can we divide a definition? So light source, okay, understand. I'm just trying to get some clarification so we don't have anything.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I'm good with those staying then as they are. So I did have a motion on the floor for the potential amendments as stated.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Adam.
You made a motion?
And I had a second.
Second.
Okay.
Just for clarification purposes, I brought it up when we were discussing that earlier. For number 4, y'all want to keep it as so long as the square footage of the billboard does not change, or do you want that to be is not increased?
Is not increased is what.
Okay, I thought you may have meant it that way, sorry.
So if you had a stackable billboard and you go down, if they're smaller, 2 stackable, and you go down to a smaller, you can go larger on that, because that's what's actually permitted through that on the LED stuff.
So, Ms. Smith, that'll be the amendment as to item number 4, and likewise, section 32-521-14B is the sign provision. We'll have it read not increased as well, provided this pass. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Mr. Davis, you brought light pollution. Are we dabbling into security and street lighting too? Is that?
No, that's not changing anything. That, I was reading that's actually always been in there. I was just trying to get some clarification of that to make sure that, because we're not changing it. What I didn't want, I just wanted a clarification of light source, so somebody doesn't look out through a tree and say, I can see that light, it needs to come down, because that's not the intent of that.
All right. Another thing we need to look at, the county sign says, welcome to Oconee County, Highway 11. This winter, we're working over York County. That darn thing is blinding you right up. It's shining right up the road in your eyes.
The light coming off of it?
The Oconee County sign, as you come into Oconee County, you're coming off the hill up there on 11. And it's right in people's eyes. They should, I thought what we just said is supposed to be pointed down on the sign. We got ours pointed from the ground up into traffic, so we need to clean our own backyard up.
I agree with that. There was an issue also.
We have had the cleaning and maintenance of the signs contracted out. The lights are adjustable on those, and that may have been something that was done at that time. They're adjustable, so we can get it fixed and lock it in tighter.
We also had the one at Clemson, I think, 2 weeks afterwards, everything was stolen off of it. So we had an issue where the light was actually laying in the ground pointed out toward the road. So we've had some issues with that unfortunately, they borrowed the batteries.
Wonderful.
Yep. So,
Thieves.
so we have we'll vote on the amendment first, as stated. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We do have the amended motion to vote on. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Liquor control. Ordinance 2020-10, ordinance amending the enforcement and penalty provisions of the liquor control ordinance of Oconee County. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have no second and no first readings. The first and only reading of the following ordinance, emergency ordinance requiring individuals to wear face masks. Let me pull that up and I'll read that real quick. That works better. I can actually see that better.
Where they fall.
State of South Carolina, County of Oconee Ordinance 2020-14. Whereas novel coronavirus COVID-19 is a respiratory disease that can result in serious illness or death, which is the new strain of the coronavirus previously unidentified. Whereas the CDC has warned of the high public health threat posed. On January 31st, 2020, United States Department of Health and Human Services declared a public health emergency. On March 13th, 2020, President of the United States declared COVID-19 outbreak in the United States constitutes a national emergency, which began March 1st, 2020. On March 13th, 2020, Governor of State of South Carolina issued executive order declaring a state of emergency based on the determination of COVID-19 poses an actual and imminent public health emergency for the state. Whereas the governor of the state has declared a continued state of emergency by subsequent executive orders. The state continues to experience a significant number of identified new COVID-19 cases daily, whereas health authorities, including CDC, Surgeon General of the United States, and South Carolina Department of Health have recommended the use of face coverings. And I won't read through all of it because we've got it out there. So, therefore, it's been obtained of Oconee County Council on definition of a county facility means a building, structure, or real property owned, leased, rented, operated, or occupied by the county or one of its dependent offices or agencies, which is open to the public in general, which is being used for public purpose. County-owned or operated facilities, the use of which is governed by other authorities such as courthouses, or which are leased to and used by third parties are not considered county facilities for purposes of this ordinance. 2, face covering means a uniform piece of cloth, fabric, or other material securely covers a person's nose, face, mouth, and remains affixed in place without the use of one's hands. Face coverings include but are not limited to bandana, medical mask, cloth mask, scarves, or gaiters, provided they are worn to securely cover the person's nose and mouth. Section 2, the use of face coverings within the county. All employees, customers, vendors, guests, and other visitors are required to wear face mask coverings while inside the enclosed areas of any county facility. 2, all persons positioned outside but in close proximity to county facilities are required to wear face coverings when maintaining a distance of less than 6 feet between other persons. Exemptions: 1, for those that cannot wear a face covering due to medical or behavior conditions. 2, for those with religious beliefs prevent them from wearing a face covering. 3, for children 11 years of age or under, provided the adults accompanying the children aged 2 to 11 shall use reasonable efforts to cause those children to wear face coverings while inside an enclosed area of the county facility. For county employees in those situations where they are not required to wear face coverings pursuant to written county policy. 5, while complying with directions of law enforcement officers or other first responders. 6, for law enforcement officers, firefighters, EMS, or other first responders while engaged in a public safety matter where it is not practical to wear a face covering. Violations and civil infractions. Any person violating the provisions of this ordinance by failing to wear a face covering when required shall be guilty of a civil infraction punishable of not less than $25 and not more than $100. Suspension of contrary local provisions during the term of this ordinance. Any other ordinance, resolution, policy, or bylaw of the county that conflicts with the provisions hereof shall be and hereby suspended and superseded. Section 6, should any provision or section, paragraph, sentence, or word of this ordinance be rendered or declared invalid by any final court action in a court of competent jurisdiction or by reason of any legislation, the remaining provisions, sections, paragraphs, sentences, or words of this ordinance as hereby adopted shall remain in full force and effect. The effective date and expirations. The provision herefore shall be effective upon a single hearing and 2/3 vote of Oconee County Council shall expire on the 61st day of the following enactment. Done and enacted as an emergency ordinance and approved by the meeting present this 18th day of August 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. McCall.
this is a good, well, face cover is a good thing. How many people in this room been in chemical and biological warfare school when you're in the service? All right. What's the first thing they tell you? Goes into, we used to call it how to poison your neighbor. So this virus is a small. Germ warfare, what we use, is big. Virus can have a square dance on the back of a germ. If you wear the covering on your face is good, but once you touch it, rub your nose, it's compromised. Also, droplets of the virus goes in through your eyes. How you think Jimi Hendrix used to drop LSD? He dropped it in his eyes. For those of you know who Jimi Hendrix was. The mask is good, but if you constantly take it up, down, it's not any good. It's a false sense of security. I have no problem with it. For those that wear it, want to wear it, fine. I have a heart condition, I don't have to. So under federal law, I'm exempt. Take my chances. But for everybody else, it's a good idea. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? We have first and final reading, Resolution 2020-05, resolution directing the Oconee County Planning Commission to conduct studies and recommend an impact fee ordinance. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? First and final reading, Resolution 2020-06, resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a dive team agreement between the Oconee County Emergency Services Department and the Oconee County Sheriff's Office. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
One.
Yes, sir, Mr. McCall.
This is good because the sheriff's department has got, they got five super lights. The sheriff, you got 5 they got 2,
We have 3.
you got 3 super lights. All right, so this is a good thing, because it's consolidating it all together. It's gonna save on maintenance, because these helmets, unlike a regular scuba regulator, require a lot of maintenance. You gotta, for us, we got a 1-year maintenance cycle. I don't know what public safety has, but it's gonna save, it's gonna streamline the whole operation, along with the umbilicals, the communications equipment, or we call the radios that go with it, because the diver talks to the surface back and forth. So this is a good thing.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Which of the action items did you remove?
I'm sorry, it is the next item on the agenda, sir, the
Caterpillar
action
trailer,
item
okay.
for the refurbishment of the cat litter at the,
We do have dozer rental for landfill, change order number 2, PO 53915, solid waste for $89,130. It's staff's recommendation that council, 1, approve change order number 2, PO 53915, equipment of Simpsonville, South Carolina for the rental extension of the 1050K dozer in the amount of $89,130. This will bring the total amount of the PO to $122,958. And 2, authorize the county administrator to sign and execute the change order. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion and a second.
I may make one note before you take a final vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I meant to mention this earlier. The rental on this piece of equipment, because it was already on the agenda, and because we didn't decide to pull the other action item until this morning after reviewing materials from another cat dealer locally here and requesting oil samples on an additional piece of equipment that may end up saving the county roughly $90,000. We may not need the 6 months that we are asking you for, but in the event that we do need the 6 months, we want to go ahead and get that permission. It looks like we may need only 2 months of this, but I would certainly not want to have to continue to bring this back to you should our option B not work out as planned.
Ms. Brock,
Yes,
how
sir.
much should that, if we bought the thing, how much would it cost?
$786,000, sir.
All right, so we're already spending how much on rent so far?
The rental is $16,800 and some odd a month. But remember, what we're renting is much larger than the one that we're repairing. So we're still using the John Deere front loader, and we're still using the 973. The tornado debris has taken a toll on equipment at the landfill. We've implemented a separation area for some of the larger stumps that are coming in with the roots still intact, because that's what's causing us to have so much trouble. This particular compactor that we're looking at here, we're putting a new drivetrain on the landfill unit compactor, and we still utilizing a front loader like a dozer style for some of the moving of the debris that's coming in.
Reason I asked you, if you go, if we go keep renting, we ought to look at,
So
I
the item we
prioritize.
asked you, that I asked for y'all to remove was the refurbishment of the current cat that we have now, the 973D with the landfill package. The refurbishment is $280,000. The piece of equipment, after being refurbished, could be good for 6 to 8 more years. There are cat dealers that tell us because of emission standards and changes that we may want to stick with the older one that we have. They're easier to work on. The hydraulic systems are a little different on the tracks. Some of the newer ones, I can't tell you what those changes are, but I can tell you that when the cat dealer tells you you may be better off to keep your older one. We have 2 other options for used equipment. Mr. Hart, as I mentioned earlier, did provide us information on one outside of Texas. Well, I didn't want to bring anything to you that we hadn't fully explored to make sure that any expenditure we make on a piece of equipment that is $700,000 or more is fully investigated, and that we look at every option available to us that would keep the landfill running while simultaneously allowing us to save as much money as possible.
That's fine, I just always figure if we go, just a policy, if you rent, why don't you just buy it? That's one
Well,
question.
part of the rental here, the part of that rental agreement is that any rent we do pay comes off of the cost of the refurbishment if we choose that option. Any rent we pay would come off of the cost if that's the option we choose.
You do
Now,
a good
obviously,
job.
the rent does not come off the cost if we decide to purchase a piece of equipment that is not from a CAT dealer.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do have a letter of support for Oconee County Legislative Delegation to request, this is a request for council to approve a letter of support to be sent to Oconee County Legislative Delegation regarding the opioid overdose epidemic in Oconee County. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A letter of support for U.S. Congressman, request for council to approve a letter of support to be sent for U.S. Congressman to preserve qualified immunity. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Have a request for council to approve the transfer of $15,000 from the General Operation Fund to the Capital Projects Fund for land acquisition for council approval on July 21st, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, council committee reports, Mr. McCall has handed me the duties here for law enforcement, public safety, health and welfare. We met on July 21st, 2020. We took no actions in regard to the bonds that the magistrate sets. It was just a discussion. We did talk about drug abuse in Oconee County that was presented by Mr. David McMahon. Mr. Davis made a motion, seconded by Mr. Call, approved 3-0, a letter of support to be brought to the August 18th, 2020 council meeting for full council to be sent to state legislature regarding drug abuse in Oconee County, regarding opioid deaths with fentanyl and heroin that is affecting people all over the county. Mr. McMahon also addressed the committee regarding what is going on across our country within lawlessness. He further noted there's been talk about changing, revising, and removing qualified immunity. He noted that qualified immunity is the thin shield that law enforcement officers have to protect them as they go out day by day completing their job. He requested a letter of support to U.S. Congressman. Mr. McCall made a motion, seconded by Mr. Elliott, approved 3-0, for a support letter to be brought to the August 18th, 2020 council meeting for full council approval to be sent to the U.S. Congressman regarding qualified immunity. Did have discussion with Sheriff Crenshaw regarding legal issues and law enforcement operations. Mr. Crenshaw addressed qualified immunity, shortage of staff, and potential to add personnel this year if budget funds become available from the state. And the SWAT team vests require a higher upgrade. There was just some discussion regarding donating food and talking about other grocery stores and stuff that had food that was expired or damaged and what we can do to talk about that. Mr. McCall made a motion, seconded by Mr. Elliott, approved 3-0, to direct the county administrator or county attorney to research and see what efforts local groceries and food donations can be of use in Oconee County. Oconee County Emergency Manager, Chief Scott Crine, addressed the committee regarding the following topics: about air packs that will need to be replaced in the 2021-2022 completion by the end of 23. They need to be on a replacement plan. Talked about an application for the Assistance to the Firefighters Grant, the AFG, in the process of writing the grant that can be up to $2 million. The grant is a 10 to 15% match, and a grant support letter was needed. New fire engines, a vehicle replacement plan. He had a few plans from the a few changes from the plans, and that a few items were not correct in the original specification. With changes and under budget, we were able to correct the fire trucks without an increase to the budget. And those fire trucks should be delivered in February or March of 2021. Is that correct? Fire station upgrades. built substations that had a front gravel pad. Due to the excessive rain, most of these gravel pads were in complete constant repair or developed potholes. Holly Springs Fire Station was the first substation repaired with a pad in the front and parking area next to the substations. The next substations will be Whetstone, Corrette Shallow, Picket Post, and Village Creek. Committee took no action on this matter at the time. Next Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 6, 2020, beginning at 4 p.m. And we already had those action items come out up here. All right. Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Kane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning and Economic Development Committee met on July 21st, 2020, 4:30 in the afternoon. First at the meeting, Mr. Howard Frady, certified building official, addressed the committee, noting that they have had some tough days between the coronavirus pandemic and the tornado, but have had support from County Council as well as Ms. Brock, County Administrator. He wrapped up the discussion by expressing his appreciation of the support his office has been given. Next, we had an update on residential developments of January of 2020 through July of 2020. Mr. Adam Chapman, Planning Director, addressed the committee, gave a brief update regarding residential developments and growth over time. He is in conversations with multiple developers for approximately 200 to 250 new parcels of property in the county and noted his office is very busy. Next, Mr. Root addressed the committee regarding the manner in which the county has historically adopted building codes. In 2013, an ordinance was put in place that adopted the current code. Mr. Root noted there were mandatory codes, discretionary codes, international building codes, and international residential codes. He noted the way the ordinance reads, any amendments to those codes as they are approved by the Building Code Council are essentially automatically adopted by the county, but requests that the ordinance be changed. Mr. Davis made a motion, seconded by Mr. Elliott, approved unanimously to direct the county attorney to present to full council a revised building code adoption ordinance that adopts the building code in effect. Next, Ms. Annie Caggiano, Oconee Economic Alliance President, addressed the committee and gave a brief presentation. She spoke about opportunity zones and applying for a grant through the Department of Commerce to develop a prospectus for opportunity zones. She noted that they had reached out to a couple of different vendors, proposed selecting Brains on Fire to develop the marketing piece. Discussion continued to include staff is capable of completing instead of hiring outside firm because information is already there. Requesting $25,000 from Brains on Fire for a 20-page brochure with reimbursable up to 25% of the total cost. And if completed in-house, the first priority would be economic development projects that come into the office, and the prospectus will be placed in the back burner. Regarding the previous motion made by Mr. Elliott, seconded by Mr. Kane, it was approved 2-1. Mr. Davis opposed to move forward with the prospectus project design with Brains on Fire, and that ultimately failed. Did not go forward at the council meeting that same evening. The next Planning Economic Development Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 1st, 2020 at 4:30 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No board and commission appointments coming forward at this time. In executive session for one, receive legal advice and discuss contractual matter and related potential contractual matter with respect to the disposition of a certain county-owned property. Two, discuss regarding an economic development matter, Project Urban Mine. Three, discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Dolly. We removed number 4. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I think we still have number 5 on, right?
Oh, there we go.
But yes, it's on the next one.
Leave legal advice and discuss potential purchase of various property interests in relation to the extension of sewer infrastructure to I-85. Thank you.
And just for one more clarification before we get the motion on that, item number 4 was removed in a previous motion.
Yes.
Yes, I just want to clarify because Katie and I had a question about it earlier.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Do I have a motion in executive session for matters?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Need a motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No action was taken in executive session. We do have some motions coming out of there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. In relation to item number 1, which is receive legal advice and discuss contractual matter and related potential contractual matter with respect to the disposition of certain county-owned property, need a motion to authorize the county administrator and the county attorney to negotiate and to represent a willingness to pursue the transfer as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in relation to number 5, which is receiving legal advice and discussing the potential purchase of various property interests, in relation to the extension of sewer infrastructure to I-85, need a motion to authorize the county administrator to spend up to $80,000 for costs related to the acquisition of necessary property interests for the extension of sewer infrastructure to and around Interstate 85.
So moved.
Second. All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion.
All in favor?